do is approve the minutes from September 3rd Curriculum Committee meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from September 3rd, 2020?
So moved.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. So the minutes are approved. Let me, darn it, let me record. I missed that.
Julianne, this is Sue. I started it for you.
Okay, because I was like, oh, holy cow, it is recording. How did that happen? Thank you. All right, thank you. Susie and I were talking earlier, do we need to know the names of the people that motion to approve? Or can we just say yes or no? Or does anybody need to know the names of the people that motion to approve?
Well, if you're following Robert's Rules of Order, you need to know the names.
The names? Okay. So then when you do motion to approve, you're going to have to verbally say your name. If I'm on my PowerPoint, I won't see who's doing that. And then Susie could record that. All right.
So for the minutes, Bill Griffin made a motion, and who made a second?
Who would like to second
I think it was Kevin.
the motion to approve the minutes?
Was it Kevin? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're going to start the October meeting with old business. Item number 20-311, Humanities 170, Intro to Women and Gender Studies. This was tabled at the last meeting till evidence and rationale were provided for the inclusion or keeping of the placement into Rhetoric 101. So the prereq was placement into the Rhetoric 101. Now, we have asked numerous courses to provide the rationale and evidence if they wanted to have the prereq of placement into Rhetoric 101 on a Gen Ed course. I am going to share my screen with you for a moment so you could see the list of classes. And we will be discussing specifically Humanities 170. Just to catch everyone up. So here is the list of courses that have a prereq of placement into Rhetoric 101. The ones in red font currently have provided rationale and evidence. The ones that are not in red font, just the simply black font, have not provided rationale and evidence. I believe the college has stated that in order for these courses to be on the schedule, I don't know who that is, but if it's possible, please mute. In order for these classes to be on the schedule in spring, they would have to be providing rationale and evidence to the curriculum committee. So the deadline for that would be the November deadline for the December College Curriculum Committee meeting. Susie, could you remind me on the deadline for the December meeting? I think
December is 11/9, November 9th.
So November 9th is the deadline to get the rationale and evidence to the curriculum committee meeting so that these courses could go on the spring schedule without any problems. All right, so those are the courses you should know by now by staring at this screen here if you are on that list or not. So then the issue we're talking about now, the item we're talking about now, sorry, I'm trying to get back to my screen, guys.
Julianne, Tracy's hand is up. Tracy Wright's hand is up.
Now I'm trying to get back to my screen. So the item we're talking about now is 20-311. I'll go to Tracy, and then I do want to say, I do want to open this up for conversation, but I do have something else to say regarding this matter. Go ahead, Tracy.
I just want BIS 205, actually BIS 105. I think it's a typo.
I'm going off a list that Susie created with her database. Susie, could you check on that number?
Oh, Okay, let me get to that.
Gabe, is Gabe in the meeting? No. All right, let's check on that.
I'll check on it.
I just
Bree,
think it's a typo.
do you? Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
have the prereq memorized.
Well, I've been a counselor for a while. There is a field ecology, so it might be that one, but I don't know when we've offered that anytime recently.
Okay, he's gonna check on that. I just want to kind of, you know, we can discuss this and then we will vote. But I just want to kind of get people's ideas from the curriculum committee regarding prerequisites for 100 level gen eds. I know that I've had conversation individually with people, and some of them are requesting the prereq. Some of them are under the impression that, you know, for prereqs, you know, prereqs should not be on 100 level gen ed classes. So, Kevin, I'm going to send Derek the link right now.
I did that already. It doesn't work for him. So you may need someone else to let him in.
Is he working remotely?
Yep.
Have him go on his home, at his home email. His home, what do you call it?
Browser.
His home browser, yes. Otherwise it won't work.
Well, yeah, anybody should be. Oh, he's coming in now. Okay, so getting back to this discussion, while Susie, are you checking on that BIS class?
Yes, I'm gonna go into my files.
So we have to, you know, rack our brains and think, do we want prereqs on 100 level gen ed courses, right? Some colleges call them green light courses. Some colleges call them red light courses. You know, red light course, no, you're not getting in my class unless, you know, you have you're college ready. Green light courses, you don't have to be college ready and you could go in. So we really have to think as a college, as a curriculum committee, what route we want to head with this. I haven't done a ton of research, but you know, this conversation started years ago. Some colleges are saying all green light classes. Some colleges are for gen eds. Some colleges are saying no, you all have to be college ready for gen eds. So we, you know, I just want to open this up to a larger scale above and beyond the Humanities 170, but you know, we will reflect back to that item. Kevin?
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you. In fact, I really appreciate Julianne's context statement that we are essentially went back a few years ago talking about, you know, the English 101 eligibility rule that is being implemented by some of the institutions that Christina through her research. So let me kind of try to unpack as best I can, knowing the history and also how other institutions are approaching this. So at City Colleges, they do have a blanket college-wide prerequisite called English 101 eligibility. So what it is the following. And Derek also came from City Colleges, and he is ready to share his perspective as well. So City Colleges, about 95% of all gen ed courses have this particular prerequisite. Now, I'm not advocating necessarily for that here, but I try to delineate what the difference is between the college-wide policies versus individual faculties' prerequisite wishes. So this is how I see it. At City Colleges, 95% of gen ed courses have a prerequisite requiring students to finish the last English DEVET course, meaning that if they're eligible to take English 101 at this juncture, they are also allowed and eligible to take 95% of the courses. That has been a policy in place for a long time at City Colleges. Richland, Elgin, and other institutions seem to have similar policy. So our really question here is the following. Are we allowing the inconsistencies where certain faculty are implement this particular English 101 eligibility rule, or are we saying that we need a more systematic college-wide policy? Because the minute we go, faculty are allowed to, implement this English 101 eligibility rule, then I suspect that there will be more prerequisite requirement going forward, and that we will not have the inconsistencies that I suspect most of us are hoping to seek. And also, too, if I may, Humanity 170 and 175 are particularly important in today's diversity conversations. So, know that these courses are so valuable in today's, environment concerning racial equity and justice. By having this particular prerequisite, are we really robbing students opportunity to take these courses that are so valuable in today's political and educational context? And these are questions I want to raise. And honestly, I don't have questions, but I'd love to hear everyone's perspective and input.
Thank you, Kevin. Christina?
Hello. I agree completely, Kevin, that 170 and 175 are really important classes because they quite intentionally engage issues of social justice. Both classes very intentionally engage, and in every single class, the categories of gender, race, class, and sexuality. We're in agreement on the importance of the classes. What we're talking about here is also an ethical issue. I teach some classes without the College 101 or the Rhetoric 101 requirements at Triton, and some that have it. And in my department, we've engaged in these discussions over the years. And what we find is that when there is a requirement for college readiness in place, students succeed more. Our student success rate is higher when students meet those college readiness criteria. The humanities classes that I teach, unlike the history classes that I teach, are more challenging when it comes to what students read and what students write. They're more rigorous requirements. And that's because in working in collaboration with IAI to get courses approved, the humanities requirements are more rigorous. In order to get a class approved, you have to have a lot more essay writing than you do for the history classes. And what we're talking about is also an ethical issue, because if you put students without college readiness into Humanities 170 and Humanities 175, they will fail. We will take their money and they will fail. So there's an ethical issue here that needs to be addressed. And, I would love it if every student at Triton took Humanities 170 or 175 or both. It's wonderful to have full enrollment in a class like that. And generally, 175 hasn't been offered yet. We're awaiting IAI approval, and it's part of an NEH grant. So depending on the timing of the grant, because of the pandemic, we were hoping to offer classes in the spring. It might not be until the fall. So that's like that timing is beyond my decision making because it's part of a grant. But for 170, I generally offer 1 to 2 sessions every single semester, and it always fills. So it's not as if seats are going empty because there aren't enough students who are college ready. But given the rigor of that class, students will fail. And I think in thinking about serving our students, we don't just have to think about access, we have to think about, are we serving them well? It doesn't take that long to get college ready when you take our college readiness courses at Triton. We have an excellent college readiness department. And there are plenty of classes that I teach and that many others teach, that students can take immediately upon entering Triton, the green light classes that you suggest. But I just don't think that it's fair to set students up knowing that if they aren't college ready, they can't pass.
Yep. Very good. Christina, I'm agreeing with you 100%. I think at the end of the day, we want students to pass the course. I think that's our ultimate collective goal, right? However, when you bring up the equity for students, I also want to bring up the equity for faculty as well. Okay, I appreciate that you have very high academic rigors, but as your dean, after observing so many faculty in arts and sciences, I will also highlight that many other faculty have equal high academic rigors. So my point is the following: how can we make sure that the equity is there too for faculty to implement similar prerequisite, just for the reason that you highlight? So what I'm eager to kind of elevate your conversation, your point is, how can we make sure that there's equity across the board, not only for students, but for individual faculty as well?
Should I respond or
Christina, I'm going to stay with you right now. I know Michael's waiting patiently, but I think it would be, unless his discussion may be something different, we should just stick with this for right now. Michael, I'll get you in one moment.
Yeah, mine's going to be similar, but I'm very happy to let Christina go first. I'm in no hurry.
Okay, thank you.
So Kevin, as I said, I teach both classes. I teach the humanities classes that have the college literacy requirements, but I also teach other courses that don't have the college literacy requirement. I think the best way to do it is to go with the expertise of the faculty. I know which classes have to have it and which classes, are okay without it because of my experience in teaching these for many years at Triton as well as other institutions. And I don't think that faculty should be restricted from adding those requirements where they see necessary. I can't say for other disciplines and other people, what classes require it. That's not, I can say for what I teach. But I think we should rely on the expertise of our very talented faculty to determine which classes have requirements. I also think it's great to think about it on an institutional level. What's our priority? Is our priority enrollment, or is our priority student success? And you have to know that the more classes that you have those college readiness requirements for the classes that I teach, the more college-ready students there are, the better the for success. When I get a student who's not college-ready, who doesn't have the reading comprehension, the comments that I put on the history classes that don't have college readiness requirements, the most frequent thing that I write in the comments for my students is answer questions in complete sentences. Complete sentences require a capitalized word at the beginning, and they require punctuation. In response to essay questions, write at least one, but ideally 3 paragraphs. So there's a big difference in student performance and students' understanding of what's required when you have the college readiness and when you don't. So I don't think that college readiness should be restricted to some faculty members or some disciplines. I'm not saying that at all. But I think that you have to deal with the faculty in question in their discipline, that they should be the ones determining.
Thank you, Christina. And this does bring up the idea of, should we as a college make a more broader decision in terms of IAI, or should we leave that up to the individual faculty who could provide the evidence and rationale? These are just ideas that I'm bringing up. I'm purposely not interjecting my opinion because I want to hear other people's opinion, before. I don't want to sway anyone one way or the other as the chair. But in hearing what we have to say, and Michael will be next, do we want to have a college-wide decision made that has no prerequisites on IAI, or leave that up to the individual. Or, I mean, what we could all say as faculty, we wish everyone was college ready before they got into a gen ed course, but that's not the reality of it right now. We want our students college ready. And I'm going to say years ago, and those faculty that have been here a while with me, years ago, we had this debate. And they said, well, you have to be in college ready classes to get into any credit course that's 100 level or higher. And there was flames going around everywhere, and people were saying, well, this is really going to hit enrollment. We're willing to do that, but it's going to hit enrollment. You know, people aren't going to be in credit classes then if they're in dev ed classes. And that was years ago. And then we kind of lost that conversation for a while, and now it's kind of coming back. But let me go to Michael now.
Thank you, Julianne. The first thing I want to say is I think I was rather visibly unhappy when I heard I was going to have to find evidence of 3 other schools that required English placement for English classes. But I'm going to admit to you, the entire process, not for each school, but the entire process took me 10 minutes. From the time I started to the time I mailed it off to you, because for English, you know, and for math, with math placement, the SAT would go out of business if this were not the case. This is such a basic thing. So, but now the question is, you know, some of these other classes that are not English, not math classes, and I made I think very clear. I strongly favor still allowing classes like Christina's to have this requirement. So I just want to say a couple of things here. First of all, as far as enrollment goes, you know, if students fail, they leave too. And this is, I think, this is something, a mistake I think we have made, and I've been pointing this out for years with little effect. We worry a lot about the students who find the classes too hard, but we don't realize how many students we lose because they find it's too easy, or because, you know, they say, well, you know, I came in and then this happened and no one else did their homework, so this happened. And, you know, there's these can work a lot of different ways of enrollment. But I have had people tell me, like chairs of coordinators, that, well, I had that restriction, but I got rid of it because I needed more enrollment. And that's a decision, you know, that I do every once in a while. Someone complains to me about the math department's English requirement, and I cut them off. I have nothing to do with that. That's a decision the math department has made, that they require that. So for as far as it being a faculty decision, it isn't. If I'm teaching a fiction class and Bill Nedrow is teaching a fiction class, we don't get to each decide what level we want people to go in. You know, the Scholars Program is an anomaly where it's just simply you have to be in the Scholars Program. But setting aside those classes, it's a department decision. Now, I do think that it would be okay to ask people who want that restriction on a course to provide some rationale. I'm not sure if finding other schools should be the rationale, but I think that one of the rationales should be, and I know I've worked with several math chairs who said, look, we have a lot of reading and writing in these classes. Some people assume we don't have any. In fact, we have a lot. So I think that asking for a rationale is okay, but perhaps the rationale should be by the course. And it makes perfect sense to me that within Christina's department, some courses require this and some do not. It's not two people. It's not that somebody else is teaching Humanities 170 and doesn't have the requirement, but Christina's put it on hers. It's that that course requires it because the amount of writing, well, perhaps from what I've just heard, some history courses do not. So they have pulled it. I personally don't want to see, you know, I recently had somebody accuse me of only caring about my personal enrollment, which is very strange because I always recommend to coordinators, go with Ret 101 in speech, don't do Ret 102. You know, it's not about that. It's about we have to have, you know, we have certain requirements that have to be met. And what I really want to just end with is that I do think there was sometimes some myths about how strong of a writer you have to be to get into Ret 101. You don't have to have mastery of punctuation. You don't have to have flowing sentence structure. I have to say it's been a long time, but I think a lot of people who had this believe this are gone. But I would get people say, I got people in my class who are in Rep 101 and they can't write, and my answer would be, yeah, that's why they're in Rep 101. They're learning how to write. But even when they finish Rep 102, we certainly don't make them masters of the form. You know, they would have to go on if they want to do that. So I don't see where this is preventing anyone from taking Humanities 170 or poetry or fiction. It's just saying you have to get to a certain writing level before you can take Humanities 170 or poetry or fiction or Shakespeare or whatever, or any of our classes all have this restriction. All our classes have a lot of writing and have instructors that have very keen eyes for mistakes. It just would not be a good idea to have the college students in any of them. I'll stop for now. I'll come back if there's questions more about English and let someone else talk for a while.
Thank you, Michael. Derek, please.
Sure. Yeah, I just have a couple of things. Full disclosure, I'm not a voting member of the committee. I think regarding these two classes and looking at some of the other schools, these classes actually at some of the other schools have different prereqs, like sociology. At one of the schools, they're listed as 200 level. So I think they might even be bumped up. Like, I wonder if they should even be IAI classes, if they're that rigorous. And I'm not trying to attack these classes, but rather I want to pivot into a discussion about, or maybe make the point about, I think this more speaks to what kind of academic identity we want to have as a school with regards to all of our IAI classes, if we want to have this as a prereq, or this eligibility as a prereq. And if I could say one more thing is that Tina Pavona gave a presentation last week in the CTE about writing across the curriculum, and we tried to make the point, and the research dictates that writing instruction should not solely be housed in Rhetoric 101 and 102 at the college. Like, that is not going to be effective or make students successful. So I just want to make that point as well when we're having these discussions about English 101 or Rep 101 placement being a prereq. I would love to also see what kinds of discipline-specific writing instruction are we talking about in these classes. And writing instruction, everyone who's not an English teacher automatically goes to punctuation. It's not. That's like the last thing. We're talking about the paragraph structure. What types of things are we writing? What is the structure and length of these assignments? Word choice, conventions, all of those kinds of things need to be taught in all these different disciplines. So I just wanted to add a couple of comments there.
Thank you. That's a great idea, Kevin. Thank you. I mean, Derek, sorry. I'm getting ready to call on Kevin now. So go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you, everyone. Number one, I'm not disagreeing necessarily with Christina or Michael. I want to make it very clear, okay? And obviously, curriculum belongs to faculty. But what I want to highlight is the following, and that somehow, somewhere, the decision that we make today or soon enough, if not today, about Humanities 170 and 175 will have subsequent consequences. Okay, if other faculty are citing examples such as city colleges, Richland or Elgin, then we can effectively implement English 101 eligibility for those that step up. So that can create a substantial inconsistencies among our curriculum, which is a very, very valid concern. I want to highlight that for everyone.
Kevin, and I just need clarification on that. With the city colleges, most of their IAI classes have this prerequisite of placement into Rhetoric 101. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, not only most IAI, in fact, it's 95% of all gen ed classes. They do have that English 101 eligibility rule as prerequisite. Now, that provides a lot of challenges for other area. So let me make clear, I'm not necessarily proposing that, but I simply want to have a more comprehensive and collective discussion about this. because in my view, this is really, really critical item, and that we need to be thoughtful, systematic, and really, really careful about our decision going forward. That is ultimately my point.
Yeah, Kevin, this is a very important item that we are voting on, so I hope everyone is deliberating as carefully as they can. You know, because it is a tough decision and there's a lot of options, and it just happens to be that it's Christina's course that is bringing up these questions.
Because gender courses have impact on other CTE programs, so I would love to hear perspective from other area as well, so that we collectively can come up with a solution that is workable for everyone, not only arts and sciences.
Well, it is good to, it is good to know the options. And so if we know some schools have the requirement in place for gen eds that you have to be college ready, other schools do not have that requirement, and then that you have to be ready for gen eds at the college ready for gen eds. And then we're kind of in between where we're saying some of ours you need to be developmentally ready in Rhetoric 101 to get in the gen ed. So I mean, we're trying to work this out, and the more people that bring valid points could help us, with this vote. I'm going to go with Christina, please.
So I really I didn't understand that my class was sort of the test case for the whole school, and if there's a way to I don't want to be making an argument for every single class that's a gen ed, because I don't teach every single class that's a gen ed. I teach humanities classes and I teach history classes. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to confuse folks earlier. When I said ask the faculty, I didn't mean individual faculty members. I meant at the department level. So at the department level, that's how things. That's how we've figured out criteria for the classes that I teach. I assume that's, so I didn't mean to say each individual. I'm the only person who teaches Humanities 170. As far as I know, I probably be the only person who teaches 175. That said, I think it's important to have standards. If you're looking for a general rule, I would urge you, if it's got to be all or nothing, I think that it would be better to have the Rhetoric 101 than to not have any classes that have it. The more students I have that are college ready, the better they perform. And when you, for example, in the humanities 170 and the 175, part of why that requirement is so important is because of the level of reading material. And it's not just about the individual student's performance. When you have discussions, it's important that students develop their ability to articulate their ideas with each other in a group, not just with them. So we try to, in the classes that I teach, the part of the pedagogy is to empower students so that they can find their own voices. And part of that works is having people you can converse with who've been able to understand the reading and who are developing tools of analysis. And so it's not just about the individual students' performance and their ability to pass. It's also having a group of students that can grow and learn together and that have the skills, the baseline skills, in order to participate in this discussion and in this growing community. So it's we're dealing with individual student success, but we're also dealing with the necessary and really important group dynamic of being able to discuss. And that's essential to the humanity courses that I offer. And then there was one last point. Derek, in mentioning punctuation, I wasn't saying that that's the most important thing. What I was trying to get at is that very often when students aren't college ready, their writing is it's not something that resembles sentences. It's a couple words. It's a dependent clause. It's not college work. It's not something that I can award points for. And so, of course, in my history classes and in my humanities classes, I'm teaching students writing, and that's part of the job. But there has to be a baseline. I can only spend so much time teaching writing because I also have to be teaching content and having them develop the skills for, the discipline-specific skills as well. Okay, no problem.
All right, thank you. Bill, and then we'll go with Sue, okay? Please, Bill.
Yes. Okay. Let me get rid of my hand. I'm going to speak on different. I'm kind of a little indifferent on this. I could see where we want to make sure every student has the ability to be successful. But being one of these people that have been here for a while, as some of us are in this group, one of the things I remember is Achieving to Dream people. And one of the big things was they made us impose all these restrictions, and then they came back the next year saying, pull them back. Their words were putting people in remedial hell, or that we couldn't let them take classes, and they were preventing students from being successful and making them withdraw from the college. Now, I will agree that there are definitely some courses that needed some that I maybe my recommendation, which just my personal feeling, may not. But I think topics such as this is part of that whole Achieving to Dream. We have these, we paid for the service, we have these coaches. Let's get other people's inputs. Kevin, you've got the city college's input of what they're doing. Let's look at a more global, what are our sister colleges with Achieving the Dream doing? Because this fundamentally funds into the Achieving the Dream for the students.
Right. That's a good input, good input. I do see your point of view on that. Okay, Sue, I was wondering if you had any, before I just want to make sure I ask you this, if you had any insight into a more broader term of all the gen ed courses regarding the prerequisite to cover them all, or the prerequisite of not being on any, or where we're at right now, which is the faculty would individually choose with evidence and rationale.
No, to your question to me, no, I don't have a broad stroke that we can address for all courses. A couple points I'd like to make. We're moving forward with guided pathways, and I think it's really important at this time that we're identifying those courses appropriately, because we're building curriculum maps at this point in time. So we want to identify courses that would be appropriate at the, for the area of study, but also what's appropriate for the level of the student. I agree with Michael. We need to have not only courses that we need courses to challenge all of our students. So we need those courses at the upper level to challenge our students that need that. That being said, I'm wondering if the numbering of this course of 170 or 171, whatever it is, if that's appropriate, if the rigor is such that there are these requirements for the ability to be successful with a level of writing. Maybe it should be at a 200 level course because of that. That also being said, and to Derek's point, we've got a great writing center and tutoring service to help those students while they're in the course. And yes, Christine, I know that you can't spend the entire day correcting English and helping with grammar. It's part of everybody's job to do that, but I understand there's content to be taught, but we do have resources on campus to help those students that may not have the level. Even if they've completed the course, there are students that need additional help. So I don't think necessarily the course is the be-all, end-all of that. And as far as comparing other colleges, our students do shop around. They shop around from one college to the other to see for prices and courses. So looking at other colleges and what they're doing, I don't think that's unreasonable to see that we're in line or falling in line close to what our sister colleges are doing, because the students are doing the exact same thing. So for those reasons, I really think if this is a 100 level course, it's a green light course, we should be putting, impose challenges on the student not to be able to take that. I think a strong rationale that really, and maybe it says this, Christine, I don't have your rationale in front of me, but maybe it does say that, this is a heavy reading and writing course. Be prepared for that. And I get that that's subjective, but in light of putting a class that prohibits somebody from taking that, students are fully aware. I will tell you that with Guided Pathways comes advising, and our advisors can also share that sentiment that there's an expectation of what would be needed in X, Y, and Z course at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. Christina?
I guess it sounds to me, and if I'm misinterpreting this, so that there's a feeling that these courses should be 200 level rather than 100 level in order to have the college readiness requirement.
That's one approach that you could take, yeah.
But I'm not on Guided Pathways, but would that be helpful if these courses were 200 level? Would that make that, I mean, they're important classes because of the diversity credit that they offer students, but the content is also important. How would that affect students? I mean, I don't know what impact that would have on the Guided Pathways stuff. So if it's the consensus of the group that you'd like me to change these to 200 level, first I have to go to my departments and discuss it with my department. But if that's the consensus, that would be great to know.
Well, I don't think it's the curriculum committee's consensus that it should be 200 level. I personally believe it should be something that you discuss within your department to get all the experts that work with you to give their input and then have discussions with the deans about that. Again, just gathering the evidence plus the faculty expertise. I don't think the curriculum committee outside of your area would want to tell you whether it should be 100 or 200 level. Unless I'm wrong, again, that's my opinion. I think that's something that departmentally that should be discussed. But it's just an idea, right, Christina? It's an idea to say, this is an option too. Let me go with Michael.
Christina, if you're just following up with Julianne, you can go first. Yeah, I see you got your hand up.
Sure. Teaching, well, I've been teaching 170 since 2008, and so I'm pretty familiar. I've taught it once or twice every semester since then, and I know what works, and I know what skills, what the requisites skills. For me, this class has to have that 101 requirement, and if that takes changing it to a 200 level. I can't just speak unilaterally. I have to talk to my department first. But if that's what it takes to keep this 101 requirements, then I'd be willing to consider that carefully. Also, if that's the consensus about 172, or sorry, 175, I'm eager to work with what's best for the college. But I have intimate knowledge of these classes because I designed them, and I'm the only one who's taught 170. So it's very important that it keeps that requirement. And if that takes going to a 200 level, I just want to be clear on what's being asked of me.
Okay, well, unless someone else is asking, I don't think anyone's telling you to move it to a 200 level. It's just an idea or an option. But I mean, I don't hear anyone else saying that it should be 200 level other than it being an option for that. Michael, did you want to comment?
Yes, and again, I've got quite a bit of experience with working with writing levels. I'm just going to give you a couple examples. Not want to make our poetry or fiction classes 200 level, even though I want to keep the requirement, because granted, a student who cannot write, who's writing on the DevEd level is probably going to do poorly in those classes. Other than that, those are not hard classes. They have a couple, they have a couple of short papers, no research required, that if the student can't write, they can't pass, but I don't think those are really 200. On the other hand, we do have Shakespeare at the 200 level, And yeah, that is almost like a little warning. This class is harder. That class is really, in fact, right now I'm only teaching a scholars program. I would happily teach it outside if I thought I could get, a dozen students, but it's mostly scholars program type students who want to take that class. But that class, there is like, okay, this is, the level of reading, for example, is much higher than in most courses. So I guess I would rather see it to be a rule. Now, as far as whether or not you should do that, Christina, I think I don't know those courses well enough, and I think that's maybe a question to ask yourself. Is this course, is the standard really high? Is it something that only students at a certain level should consider taking, or is it something that anyone who is 101 level should consider taking, as our fiction and poetry classes are? If that's the case, my opinion is you're okay with 101. This is just that. And I'll go back to last time I said, I don't think anyone's thinking we shouldn't do this with math. That if you don't know the multiplication tables, you should be able to take calculus. It's really just a matter of, for me, it's a matter of what level of readiness is needed to take this course. At least that's how I see it. That's how I've always, looked at restrictions or requirements, whatever you want to call it.
Thank you for that advice, Michael. Pam?
I guess on my side of it, Christina mentioned about, wanting students that are college ready. But I guess what I would like all of you to think about is, what kind of students do we have here at Triton College? I taught in classes over 20 years, and the level of the student that we are getting is not college ready. I wish Rick was in this, because I know that we had a discussion about students who come into Triton and they test out at the developmental level. I don't know what the percentages are on that. Kevin, do you know that by chance? I know Rick had mentioned it in another meeting that I was in, but
80, 60, 40. 80 for math, not ready. 60 for writing, and then 40 for reading. That is an estimate, approximate number.
Okay. And so, yes, I taught in the career area where, while it's selective admission, I want to remind all of you that we still are teaching the same students that everyone else does, even at the gen ed level, and to make that a consideration. I guess my last thing goes along the lines of assessment, and that would be to Christina, what kind of success rate do you have in your courses with the students that are coming in? If they're not college ready and they're coming in, are the majority of your students failing? I don't know what those numbers are, but I guess for me, I'm all about assessing the situation as far as the students that come into the program. Come into your course, are they successful or not? But I would really like everyone to really consider what kind of students that we have here. Yes, I want them to be successful. A good rationale for any of these courses is critical. But again, that's having the experience on that. I want the committee to really think about that and not make a quick decision on it, and really think about who we serve here at Triton College.
Thank you, Pam. Okay, Kevin?
Yes, I'm going to quote Christina for her statement that ultimately, yes, I agree. She has ultimate knowledge about these two courses, right? So she's the faculty expert. However, I want to highlight the following. I did some searches yesterday. I actually spent 2 hours doing some research on comparable courses in Illinois community colleges, 2 hour Humanity 170 and 175. Yep. And I can tell that only one college designated one of those courses in the 200 level. So my caution is the following. If we're going to designate those courses 200 level, I suspect that enrollment will also be limited. So, there's that aspect and concern as well. So I want to highlight that. So also too, Christina, if you're thinking that this course is such rigorous, have you considered looking at some of the II major course designations? Because they do offer II major courses. if you think that this course is more appropriate, and also if there's a II major course destination for you, perhaps that's something that you ought to pursue. I don't know because I'm not the expert.
Okay, Christina, I'm going to let you talk right now, but I do want to give you this word of advice. It is that, course revision should be continually ongoing. So even with the conclusion of the vote today, it's not to drop the ideas of what was brought up. And there was really good recommendations, I thought, from Michael and from Kevin and from Pam, as well as Bill's idea about, talking with the individuals from Achieving the Dream about what they're seeing on even, nationwide. But so just be conscious that we could continually, work with the course as we all should with our courses, and it doesn't need to be finalized today if things, discussions are made in your department and so forth with the course. Okay, Christina, go ahead.
No, of course. And with all of the classes that I teach, I'm always revising and adding and changing. I think that they're 100 level courses. However, I want to be sensitive to the opinions of my colleagues, and I want to know what folks think, how these courses would fit best. They're important gen ed courses. I have created them and offer them because I think they're of value. My priority today is making sure that I can offer 170 in the spring, and then that I can offer 175 once the grant that I'm participating in, makes that possible. But I think that they're 100 level courses. That's why they're listed as 100 level courses. But if folks have information or preferences, I'd like to take that into account. That's how I call this.
Okay, thank you very much. I am going to make a motion to vote on this item. Can I have a motion, I would like to say motion to vote or motion to approve?
Julianne?
Yeah.
Before we vote, I need to know what a yes is and what a no is, because it's not clear
Okay.
to me.
So on her proposal, on the course proposal, the inclusion, what we're voting on is to keep the prerequisite of placement into Rhetoric 101. Now, I don't have the course proposal right in front of me. Am I wording that correctly, Christina? The prerequisite is?
Well, it's to keep the class as it's been taught, as it was originally approved. This was just a random course update. There's nothing being changed on the class.
Right. The rationale should either say must meet all college level reading and writing requirements for Rhetoric 101 placement, or placement into Rhetoric 101. Susie, do you have it right in front of you? I might have it here. Hold on. Susie, are you there?
Yes, it said must meet all current college reading and writing requirements for Rhetoric 101 placement.
Okay, so everyone heard that. Can you say it one more time? Everybody pay attention. This is what we're voting on. Say it one more time.
Must meet all current college reading and writing requirements for Rhetoric 101 placement.
Okay, so a yes vote would include that, as is. Okay, a no vote would be we're not approving it. And then essentially it would be tabled and brought back next month without the prerequisite on it. Okay, so can I have a motion to approve item 20-311, Humanities 170, Intro to Women and Gender Studies with the prerequisite?
Yes, Julianne, I'll move to approve.
Can I have a second? Do we have a second for approval? Just to vote, a second to vote.
I'll second it, Tracy.
Okay. Now, I do want you all to know, only the members of the curriculum committee will be voting. So if you are not a member, do not raise your hand. All right, because I know we have a few guests here. I do want everyone to raise their hand. All in favor of approving item 20-, please raise your hand. Do you have them all, Susie?
Here's, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 only.
Okay, now take your hands down. All opposed, please raise your hand. Did everyone
there's
who was present on the curriculum committee vote? Do you have that, Susie?
Yes, there's 5 no's.
Okay. You guys could lower your hands. So it's 6 to 5?
Yes.
All right. So that item did pass. Item 20-311. Okay, we will not spend an hour on the next item, I promise. I do want you all to take this idea back with you, both the deans, the department chairs, coordinators, and faculty, because I would like to continue discussion at a higher level across the college, rather than, you know, each individual course taking 1 hour's worth of the curriculum committee's time. Although, you know, that really wasn't just solely about Christina's course. It was about the more general idea overall. Sue, did you want to say something before we move on to the new business?
Sorry.
No?
No.
Oh.
The committee's made a decision on this, then we're going to move forward that way.
Okay.
But we still have to have the recommendations from the different colleges at that point in time.
Right.
And-
So for each of those, let me show you that one more time real quick to get this other item out of the way. So just for the rest of these that are not in red font, we have to have the rationale and evidence by November 9th in order for these courses to be on the schedule in spring. And I'm really concerned about the science and math, not that I have any, you know, ill feelings towards the rest of them, but the math, you know, that's pretty important. So we have to know what's going on with that.
Leanne, I just wanted to tell you that I'm not going to share anything in specifics, but I will tell you that I have talked to Beth, just, you know, just as a fellow chair, just explaining things, not trying to convince her. She just had some questions of how things work. So she is working on it. Is Glenn still here? Maybe he could talk about that. He'd actually be better than me.
Yeah, I'm
He is
still here. Yeah, there's going to be a discussion of that at our department meeting on Tuesday. So her and Christy have both been gathering data, and we've already had some online discussions as a department. So I assume we're going to continue that and have a decision very shortly.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, we are going to move on to the next items. I want to share my screen so you can see what we are voting on here. So for the new business, we have items 20-326 through 20-328, deletions of literature 102, 113, and 114. Any comments or questions on these? Can I have a motion to approve item 20-326? Oh, was there a comment or question?
That was just from me. I just wanted to mention if Bill Justice is still here. Bill, thanks for having that class. I'll admit I was a little surprised. Fire Science had that as a recommended course, the drama. But honestly, that course is kind of, I think, a victim of the narrowing we're seeing of courses being recommended. Because I saw that when I saw how few departments were recommending it. The other two, frankly, I should have done years ago, but someone in my department kept saying he was going to do something with them. I finally just said no. But I just wanted to mention that. I think that's, you know, I think that is something that we're going to see more of as we go into pathways, I think some classes are going to get narrowed out, because I think this one already has. I would say, just on the basis of how few people I had to contact about getting rid of a course that used to fill 3 sections a year. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 20-326 through 20-328? And please say your name. Okay. Who just motioned to approve?
Bill?
Okay. Can I have a second?
Second, Dr. Griffin.
Okay. All right. All in favor? Any opposed? I'm just checking, making sure nobody opposed here. All right, so those, Bill Griffin, your hand is not up, is it?
No.
Okay. All right, so we will pass items 20-326 through 20-328, the deletions of the literature courses. We are now going on to curriculum revisions, which the revisions that we're about to see are specifically for the deletions of the literature courses. So the ones that you see on your screen right now, the changes are only to remove the deleted courses of literature. So we're going to vote on items 20-329 through 20-336. It is 8 curriculum revisions, and you see them all on your screen right now. Okay. Fire Science, AAS, so AA, Women and Gender Study, English and Rhetoric, Speech Theater, Ed Core, and then AA.
If you're not talking, please mute your mic.
I was just about to say that, but thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 20-329 through 20-336?
So moved.
Second, Justin.
Thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, if you guys could lower your hands. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Those items will pass. Items 20-329 through 336. Okay, one last item that was, do you have a question, Bill?
Yeah,
Bill Griffin?
I do. Yeah,
Okay.
I do. Just a matter of order. We really need a motion and a second before we can have discussion. So I think we should be consistent with Robert's Rules of Order. So we need a motion on whatever we're going to vote for, and then a second, and then comes discussion before we do a final vote, just so that we're following Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay. We have one last item that was added, 20-337 is Rhetoric 097, Companion to English and Rhetoric Comp 1. This item was added because I believe it is a change in prereq. I don't see Robert here. Kevin, could you?
I can, Julianne.
Okay.
I can do it. If there's
Thank
any
you.
questions.
Okay. Susie, could you tell me the exact, is Susie here?
Yes.
Yes. Could you tell me the exact language of the prereq?
The prerequisite, what happened was it came to curriculum last spring, and it was never listed on the course proposal that there was a change to the prerequisites, so it went through the curriculum, went through the process without the change in prerequisites. So that's why we're bringing it back to change the verbiage.
What does the prerequisite say? I'm sorry, I forgot already.
The old one was must meet all current college reading requirements for Rhetoric 101 and writing requirements for Rhetoric 097, C, college placement policy. And the new one is the generic one that we're using, must meet all current college reading and writing requirements for placement, C, college placement policy.
Okay. So we're voting on the new wordage of the prereqs.
Right.
Julianne, that
Yeah.
doesn't, I don't think that's right. 097, well, they would be in with Rhet 101, but that's a prereq course. That's not right. You don't have, that's for students that are on under the bubble for placement, and then they can be placed in by their dev ed teacher if they think they're not quite ready for 101, but beyond dev ed they can. Because this is a prereq course that goes, and I'm sorry, I got that notice, but of course I didn't have time to look at it today. That's where I'm just bringing it up now. I don't think that's right.
And they take on 097 and 101 together.
Yes, they do. They take 097 and 101 together, but they don't have to be 101. The whole point behind 097 is that it lets in students who score up to 50 points below the 101 level, or that they can be placed there by their dev ed instructor.
Right.
But
So they are not at 101 level.
no, if they were at 101 level, they could just take 101. So I don't know. I was real confident when I said I could speak for this one, but actually I don't think that's right.
The prereq wording is 101 in the wording that he's proposed, or is he getting rid of the one? I thought he got rid of the one that said 101.
That's
What's
what
the
was
wording
supposed
in it
to
now?
happen.
Say it again, Susie, the wording that he proposed.
Must meet all current college reading and writing requirements for placement. See college placement policy.
Placement. Okay. So it doesn't say for 101. All right. I think I mixed up the two when you were reading them, Susie. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Seems like
doesn't
a
say the
really
number.
vague thing to me, but it's
Remove the numbers.
wrong.
Do you guys have questions on this new prerequisite wording? It says it must meet placement, but placement into what? It just says placement?
It just says, yes, must meet all current college reading and writing requirements for placement. See college placement policy.
Right. I get it now. I get it now.
Does that make sense to you, Michael? Because it doesn't make sense to me.
It does now, because the reason we started doing this is because we had the same placement standards at this college for like 30 or 40 years, and then suddenly we started changing them every 2 or 3 years. So to avoid everyone who has this a requirement in math or English, we came up with this generic language that basically said, see the catalog for the current placement. So that means that basically we're saying whatever it says right now for 097, that's what you have to have. For some reason, I swore I heard Susie say 101, and I'm sure she didn't.
I think she said the
That was the old one.
That was the old.
Yes, and that would be wrong, because this is a dev ed course. It's a dev ed course for students who are placed high enough that they can actually take Rhet 101 at the same time they're taking it as a co-rec. And in fact, they're taught together. It's the same class, like a 5 credit hour class, 2 credit hours for 097 and 3 for 101. So yeah, I'm okay with it now, and I'm sorry for the misunderstanding.
And the verbiage means to check the chart that we have that lists, if you get this score, you're ready for this class.
Okay, so Tracy, you're good with that prereq as well?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. So, any other, I'm gonna motion to approve.
Need a motion
A motion to approve.
and a second, and then the discussion.
I know, I didn't do it in the right
Okay,
order.
Tracy, I'll motion to approve it.
Second, Michael.
Second?
Now
Okay, any
discussion.
further discussion? Any further discussion on this item? All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. We're voting on item 20-337, the revisions of Rhetoric 097.
Okay.
Thank you. Please take your hands down. Any opposed?
John
John, did
Cordian.
John, are you opposing? No.
Okay.
No.
John, you're
I'm
not
not.
opposing, correct? Okay. All right, so we passed that item 20-337. We're going to go on to a couple other items right now. Okay, so I has called some outstanding courses that need to be revised. I'm sorry, am I on the wrong one? I'm sorry. This is outstanding courses that have not gone to curriculum. These courses will still need to be revised. These are course revisions. Humanities 170 is in blue font because that was on there today. So we are about 105 courses. These classes should be coming to curriculum. Does someone have their hand up or would like to comment?
Yeah, that's me, Bill Justice. So here's my question. Are these courses now officially on hold and cannot be taught until they go to the curriculum process?
Well, I do not have the authority to put them on hold. That would really be, I believe, something from the dean's or vice president's office. But, you know, we did say that. We did say that.
Because, I mean, the big thing I'm looking at is in order, we change all the programming over to, all curriculum over to meet the new outcomes we have instituted with the college. And since, if we're going to teach these right now, there's no way of aligning them to the current,
Right.
I don't know the names all of a sudden, I'm drawing a blank, but we need to make sure, you know, we need to have, I mean, I think we have to have something to more or less force people to do the curriculum then at that point. I mean, I'm not sure what else to say.
I know that there are some that have plans, like I believe CIS is in a planning phase in which they do have certain dates that they're going to be submitting this. But if we haven't heard anything from some of these courses, they shouldn't probably not be placed on the spring schedule. If we know that there's deadlines and that they're coming later this fall, then we could probably work with those. But that's really something the dean should decide. Any other input on that?
Yeah, I can tell you from the 3 business ones that are there, those are all going to be deleted. We're working on those. Those will all go to curriculum this fall, I hope, maybe except 265, but they're all going to be deleted. So they're not going to be offered anymore. We're just doing work on them.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Just a brief update, Julianne, concerning the Chinese courses and Italians. We're still tapping the adjunct to help us, although the response has not, quite abundant. But we're still nudging. We're still trying to engage the adjunct to help us with Chinese and Italian.
Right. I do want you also to think about if these courses are being offered as dual credit. We don't want to lose that from our high schools. However, if we can't be offering a dual credit class at a high school that's not up to date. We cannot have a course outline that's old on our campus and then being offered that as a dual credit. I actually called research to see when the last time the Chinese and Italian were offered, because I was personally just curious, because I know they haven't moved in a while. And I was surprised to see some more recent dates, but I'm thinking that might be dual credit rather than on campus.
They are dual credit. The Italians courses are solely offered at the high school as dual credit.
Yeah.
So certainly we don't want to withdraw that to bring down our enrollment, and that's will be counteractive. And but that is on our radar, and Bill Decker is working with me closely on those items.
All right, great. Any other comments on these classes here? Go ahead. I don't know who's raising their hand.
It's Sue. So I think that I spoke with Kevin. I think the geo classes are set to be deleted as well. And as far as the music courses, we got a brand new coordinator last spring. He was here for 3 months before he went off campus. I know he is working on those. I'm hoping, just like with the CIS, it's a plan that it's hitting the most popular or most prevalent courses that are being taken first, so that we're, kind of meeting most of the requirements for those courses. So I don't expect we're going to get 33 courses from the music area this semester, but hopefully there's a plan in place with the deans to get that done as quickly as possible.
Yes, I'm good with the planning too, especially
Yeah.
for that larger number. Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, just to comment on that, we are working with Sal Siriano, our new full-time music faculty, and he's doing a great job getting on those music courses. So, I mean, I don't have an update other than that. We're still in the early stages of it, but we're definitely working on it.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hi, Julianne, it's Jennifer. I just thought I'd throw in that, as you said, CIS, we do have a plan, and actually we looked at the spring courses that were to be offered, and I believe the number was about a dozen. So they should hit in the November meeting.
Okay, great. All right, good. I'm happy to hear that progress is being made on these. All right, anybody else before we move to the other items? Okay, I was jumping the gun a little. Here's the IAI classes. These are incomplete courses that were called for IAI. We do not want to lose any IAI classes. Why BIS 100 and 101 is in red, Susie? I can't remember. Were they being submitted to you for next month? Or they were submitted today?
They were just submitted to IAI today.
Okay, they were submitted today.
Yes.
Okay. So these are classes that were needing more information from the IAI to maintain their IAI status. Who has a comment or question on these?
This is Michael, Susie and Julianne. We did Lit 102 like almost an hour ago.
Thank you for pointing that out. That's
Yeah.
I'm
kidding, obviously. You obviously wouldn't have known we were going to do that, but yeah, that one can go ahead and be taken off.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Needed. Okay.
All right. Any other comments? So these need some revisions to maintain their IAI status, is what we're saying. What today was a deadline. When is the next deadline, Susie?
Today is March 1st.
So we don't want to lose the IAI status, right? So if basically we need more revisions on these by March 1st.
Right. They have to do it in spring, because by next fall they will pull them off, they said.
Okay, so if they're not revised by March 1st, and I would do it ahead of time. I would not wait till March 1st in case there's another issue with IAI. I have tried to get an IAI course, so I know what the issues are. I do not own an IAI course, but I know the drama that has to be, fulfilled in order to maintain the status. So the earlier you do it, the better, just in case, we have some more questions before we submit on March 1st. Who else had a comment?
I do. Susie, it's Bill. On 149, that's the statistics class. We're still waiting for IAI approval on that. We did send it forward for the questions that we did answer for them on specific items. So I'm not sure if that 149 there, it's not really incomplete. I think we're waiting back from the folks to tell us if it's met their requirements or not. Am I right on that, Susie?
I'll check my listing, because I know I sent it in.
Okay, all right.
I sent it to Susie on the 11th of September, but did not hear back, I don't believe, after that.
Yeah, sounds right.
So Susie, was
the Lit 102 was, I had put it in and they were waiting for revision that I decided not to make because I decided to get rid of it. So, but it sounds like I don't know if that's the case here. It sounds like maybe it's not from what the dean just said, but.
Right, since it just went through for deletion today, I will have to notify them it's being deleted.
No, I don't mean mine, Susie. I'm saying that because that Bill said his was on the list, even though he had sent it in, and I was saying it's the same with Lit 102. I've done all the paperwork. They just hadn't approved it yet. So there might be What I'm saying, Susie, is there might be some on this list that have sent it in and it hasn't been approved yet, because it sounds like that's the case with bills, and it was with Lit 102 before we deleted it.
Right.
I'll check on this.
So was Bill sent in for today's deadline? Is the question?
We sent that to Susie on the 11th of September.
Yeah.
We also previously last month at the curriculum meeting did HRT 125, so I'm not sure why it would show incomplete.
Right. I mean, we could have sent those in.
125 is going through curriculum again, I believe, because it was denied with the lab. Now it's going through again without the lab, correct?
Didn't we vote on it last month?
Yes.
We did, but did it get sent to IAI, I guess is my question, because we haven't been working on it since we went to curriculum last month.
Okay, I have to check my log.
Okay, Susie, double check that HRT 125 and BUS 149 was sent. That's, I'm assuming they were sent, but they're still on this list.
Okay, I will check.
Okay. And then we'll just discuss later or tomorrow on those two after you get it checked.
Well, today's the deadline, so I have to send it in today if it was not.
Yeah.
But they were.
So I would say, yeah, check it later after the meeting, those two. Okay. Variations of course repeatability. There was a lot of questions about how a course is repeatable, and I have a couple slides for you. Susie, I believe you're going to speak on this. I'm going to leave this first slide up for a little bit for you guys to look at, and then I'm going to switch to the second one. Susie, could you comment on this course repeatability?
Okay, it's kind of hard to write and talk at the same time. Wait one second.
Okay.
Okay. There were questions about repeatability. There's a repeatability for, according to the board policy, where a student can repeat a course for a better grade.
Okay.
And then there's repeatability for like PE courses.
Which is the first one here.
Yes, they can be granted up to 6 credits for their program, towards the program.
Mm-hmm.
There's also repeatability for vocation to upgrade their skills. And if the difference is for the state repeatability, when we ask the state for repeatability, if the student takes a course and they're repeating it and it's not approved by the state for repeatability, we just do not receive any reimbursement for the second, third, fourth, whatever, after the first try. Adult basic ed, secondary, most of them have a 3-time repeatability to bring them up to the skills that they need for the course. I know there was just questions about the different repeatabilities, but the one that's listed on our course proposal for repeatability, that is for the state reimbursement.
Right, because people were questioning whether they should mark repeatable or not.
Yes. I don't know if anybody has any more questions.
Go ahead if you have a question.
It's Sue. So I think there's also an issue about financial aid too, because if you don't check off repeatability, the course will not be paid for a second time around.
Even for a higher grade?
Well, if you're, it doesn't apply to W's and F's. Going from a B to an A, yes. And things like phys ed, music, and stuff like that. Those can be repeated more than once because you're gaining the skills. I think those can go up to 4 times.
Yes.
So we allow up to 8 credits then for that. And then those special topic courses can also be repeated, but the topic obviously has to be different each time it's taught. You can't take the same topic for a 296 course more than once, obviously. So there's a financial aid component too for repeatability.
Right.
Yes.
So the reasons a student might want to take it more than once is if it's new topics for a 296, if it is information that is being built upon, which is why PED is allowed up to 4 times. If you're trying to get a higher grade, or if you're trying to improve a skill. If you need to go back, right, I think with something like welding, where it's a vocational skill that needs to be retaken. So those are the reasons why someone would want to repeat. And in all those cases, do we check the box, Susie, for repeatability?
Yes. If you'd like to be reimbursed by the state, we have to provide them with a rationale for the repeatability. And they're asking also to add that to the course description, that the course is repeatable one time or whatever.
Now, let's say the box isn't checked and I fail Intro to Psych, and I want to take, well, let's say I didn't fail it. I get a C, but I want to take it again for an A. Will financial aid cover that? And according to this, it will be covered to improve a grade if it's not a W or an F. But does that box need to be checked, or is that just inherent that any course would be able to be retaken?
According to our board policy, yes, but I don't believe financial aid will not reimburse it if it's only for, they don't reimburse W's or F's.
Right. But what if it's like a C or a B and the person retakes it?
Pat's on her email, she said that any course successfully completed by any course successfully completed may be covered twice by financial aid, allowing for one opportunity to improve the grade. So it does one time.
But so we wouldn't, the person submitting the course proposal wouldn't need to check the repeatability box for that particular issue, which is number 1 on my screen.
No,
it would be for the other issues like vocational training, further enhanced knowledge, or a 296. Those we would check the box for.
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any more comments or questions on this, or are they still confused? So this is when you would check the box, which is what's on your screen right now.
Can I mention a few things? This is Kevin.
Go ahead.
Okay, I think we need to make a distinction here. Okay, even courses that is not repeatable, per our board policy, students are allowed to repeat that class, okay, to in order to obtain a higher grade. So we need to be very cautious between our board policy versus ICCB reimbursable rule. If we're saying that students are allowed to repeat English 101, for example, which is a non-repeatable course, but for a higher grade, that is allowed, which is separate than the ICCB reimbursement rule. So that is very difficult. That is very important to make that distinction. The repeatable classes, as you outlined and several folks outlines, are the courses that have variation in the content over time, such as Science 296 or Science 299, special topic, undergraduate research, portfolio class, or even internship. Those classes allow students to gain different experience, and therefore repeatability is allowed. But so are the rest of the courses, because we allow them to improve their grade, regardless whether they're getting the state reimbursement. So we need to be mindful of that distinction. Also, I want to just correct one statement that financial aid does not reimburse W. That's not true. Financial aid does reimburse W as long as the students stay in a class for more than 60 percentile of the time. That W will get reimbursed as well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that that was from the financial aid office. Any other comments or questions on repeatability? I do hear some hands going up.
It's Tracy. I just wanted to make sure that, you know, the reason why students would repeat it for a better grade if they didn't get a D or an F would be generally if they're applying to an allied health program. If they get a C or better, it is not recalculated in their GPA.
Yeah. We're actually getting a lot of repeat also from arts and science students too, just because they have a D, it doesn't look good in the transcript, and we got a lot of repeat that way. But
right, D's and F's, they will recalculate the GPA. If it's
Yeah.
a C or above, they do not, but the transfer school may look at the higher grade.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, anyone else on this topic, or we can move on? All right, we'll move on. We did the prereq thing. We have just two more quick items here. Assessment. Evan, did you want to speak to assessment a little bit?
Sure. So let me provide some context. Recently, we have a conversation among the academic deans and VP Campos, and that, I kind of share one difficulty, with the team, and that I was advised to bring this item here to this committee. I fully understand that there's assessment committee separately, but the reason I want to at least start a conversation is because more deans and more of you and the VP is also attending this curriculum committee. So I have the right audience. So recently I shared a challenge, with the deans and VP that, despite so many weeks, despite multiple encouragement, from the chair, no one is stepping up to conduct assessment for humanities, which is a key discipline for community college. So because of the understanding of all academic deans and VP, we believe that curriculum assessment go hand in hand. And I simply want to start a conversation and get some perspective and advice how we can move forward with assessment, knowing challenges like this one.
Okay. And I do want to remind the curriculum committee that we were so focused on program assessment, but we have to also make sure that the learning outcomes on the courses are also being assessed, and that those assessment intervals, formative and summative, are appropriately filled out and accurate and being followed. That's not just, I'm going to fill something out and do whatever I want in the classroom. We have to follow those formative and summative assessments. Again, I think I'm preaching to the choir here because we know this, but we have to delineate that information back to the faculty as well. So if we could open up the conversation a bit on assessment of courses from the curriculum committee's role in that. Michael?
Well, I'm not fully sure that I understand this, but so, I mean, I've already made my mistake for the day, but I'll try this anyway. I think that, the assessment I'm not sure what our role would be. I mean, assessment needs to be done by people teaching the courses. It's hard. I'll tell you, I do not have people fight over assessing English classes. In fact, I've had two people already in the time since we've had fellows, and both of them I had to ask, and one I had to ask very nicely this year if you'd please do it again. Even with the stipend, it is a lot of work. I guess I'm not sure what our role would be as a committee for that. I think really what I probably, now that I'm talking a little about it, I guess what I'm just saying is I'm not quite sure I understand what we're asking, what our role, Kevin, what our role could be in this.
So obviously our task is not in silo, right? So whenever we have to deal with one particular, aspect of things, oftentimes it kind of spill over multiple committee working toward the same goal, right? So my point is the following, let me just quote a example from today. For example, a lot of the conversation concerning Humanity 170 and 175, if there is assessment component and data to add to a conversation today, I think we could have made a much quicker decision collectively this afternoon. So what I'll highlight is, again, there is a tremendous, immediate ties between curriculum assessment Again, I want to bring this up because of the right audience on this committee today. I attend assessment since the day I got here because I care about assessment. However, I do not necessarily have the right audience on the assessment committee to sort through some of these challenges. So again, I simply want to start a conversation. I'm not seeking answers today, but I still think that that is a worthy conversation among all of us.
Well, can I just, because, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I think there's at least a 50-50 chance I am, but it sounded like you were saying the problem is that no one would do the humanities assessment. And I guess what I'm saying is I'm not sure this committee would be any better than the assessment committee at getting someone to do that, if that's what you're saying the problem is. If there's simply no faculty who's full-time or adjunct who's willing to do it, even with money on the table, then I guess I'm asking, do you have any, are you just looking for input, or do you have some idea of what this committee could do about that?
I'm looking for input because, as we know, the quality of a course really depend on, the regular update, but also some sort of assessment data to inform how the course should look like going forward, right? So in that aspect, I think assessment tie very nicely to the quality of our work that we do on this committee. Because I do not necessarily have the right audience on assessment, and therefore I was asked to bring this item here for a more robust conversation and discussions. So, this is very, very exploratory. I simply want to kind of have the conversation. How can we make sure that, assessment and curriculum are done in hand, and that, one aspect inform the other, right?
Okay. Sue, would you like to?
Yeah, I would. Thank you. So to echo what Kevin has said, assessment does not sit in a silo separate of curriculum. It's part of the curriculum process. Michael, you teach. I don't think you just dispense knowledge. Throughout the course, you're asking questions or producing a paper. We're somehow assessing the learning. So we can't say that teaching is just one skill. It's the curriculum and it's the assessment that goes hand in hand. I think we, for too long, have been separating them to two separate entities, and they're not. They go hand in hand. So that's why we're bringing this conversation to the curriculum committee. Our assessment is on our curriculum forms. We talk about formative assessment, how is it done in class, and summative assessment. So I think a conversation of how assessment fits with curriculum should be fruitful to this committee, because they go one and the same. You can't come to the curriculum with a new course outline without having done some kind of assessment. What are you changing? Why are you changing it? And so I think that's a critical piece. And so, that faculty is driven by, curriculum is driven by faculty. And so, the faculty need to understand their role that curriculum plays in assessment and curriculum, and they're one and the same. So that's where the conversation is coming from, Michael.
If I may, Julianne, if I can go with that, because that all made perfect sense to me. I really, being sincere, I did not understand what was being asked here, and I can see that. I think, from my standpoint, I assess my courses all the time. Sue's right, but if you asked me if I wanted to be my department assessment fellow, I would say no, because I just don't want, because some of this stuff can be very, very time consuming, and so maybe there could be an assessment aspect brought into Senate that doesn't necessarily mean into curriculum. Wrong meaning. That does not necessarily involve everything that's involved with being an assessment fellow. I mean, because my guess is, you're right. I think the teachers who teach these courses probably do, assess their courses. So there's probably something we could do even if it's on a smaller scale. Because I think a lot of it, assessment became so huge. because the HLC basically said if you don't get your assessment straight, you're going to lose your accreditation. So it became this kind of huge thing, which attracted a lot of people, but also I think scared some people away. And so, you know, we maybe something that can be done is we look for a way to tie it into assessment into curriculum that maybe is different, not as big as what gets done in the assessment committee. Does that make sense? Where it's like, you know, there has to be some sort of assessment of the course if it's being taught that could be more like what we do in curriculum than something that involves going to, you know, 4, 5, 6 meetings a semester or whatever it is they're doing these days. I know Christie's, once we get through this, it'll probably that'll probably settle down a little anyway. But yeah, I think there's things we can do from a curriculum standpoint. Maybe just not necessarily involving as much as what's currently involved with the fellows.
Yep, exactly. I don't mean to duplicate our work, but I think somehow there ought to be a more close alignment to support each committee's work so that we be more successful. I think that's ultimately my point. And so I simply want to have a, discussion at this point.
Okay.
Michael, I would say we had to move a mountain for assessment. Let's say we went from 0 to 100. And I don't think we have to maintain, HLC, don't take this the wrong way. We don't have to maintain that 100-mile-per-hour speed, okay? It's becoming part of our culture, and I can say that because I have seen it in pockets across the campus. So I think, yes, we had to really power to the metal to get something done. Now it's becoming part of our culture. So, how do we make it really part of our culture? How do we work it into all the processes we have? Because that's really what assessment should be. If that should be something what we're doing, 56 people are doing across campus to check the boxes off. Everybody's doing assessment. I know you do that in your classroom, Michael. So how do we make that become more natural and part of our regular work instead of just, 56 people doing it, so we say we've got it done? Because that's not really what we want. We want assessment to be part of our nature, just like writing a class is part of the responsibilities of faculty, to provide the best courses that we can for the students. I laugh when I was working with Kevin about the Italian class. It was last through curriculum in 1993. And yes, I know the language of Italian hasn't changed, but how you would teach it, topics you would bring up, certainly has. So, are we offering the best course to the student?
I did offer updated Chinese courses to VP Campo, by the way.
You're going to update them, Kevin?
I did offer.
It's in the minutes now, Kevin. There you go.
Well, I just want to make sure, too, that we're not losing sight of the course assessment, because I think everybody is so focused on the program assessment that we kind of overlooked the learning outcomes on the courses or the overall learning outcome for the course. And Michael's right. We do that every day as faculty members. I don't know that we're reporting that and, making, documents on our plans and our reports, but we're doing that, well, those of us that are participating, yes, we are doing that.
Yeah.
So
I think this course committee-wide conversation will only help all of us. Another good example is the repeatable rule that we just talked about. That's exactly what Beth Dunn's committee talking about, how to bring down a W rate, right? So our work is naturally crossed over. So, I think, it would not hurt to bring up item like this across committee to kind of gather broader input and perspectives. And that's ultimately my point.
yeah. Okay, any other comments on that? We will talk about this at the next meeting as well, just to keep the conversation going, because I'm not sure everyone, I think some people left. But just to keep this in the back of our minds as we're looking through the course outlines and the curriculum forms. Okay. No other comments. I do have one, just kind of like more of an announcement rather than an other item. It's about information sharing at the Senate. I currently, when I go to the Senate, I will report, basically I use the PowerPoint and I put it up there and I say we had 3 course deletions, 1 course revision, 6 curriculum revisions. It's on the PowerPoint so they can see what that is, and we vote on that. Now, the question came to me is, do we need to share every detail and every item that we vote on at the Senate? So my question in bringing this up right now is if you could talk amongst the people that you are working with on a daily basis and determine, do they need to hear every item? Do they need to hear about the 3 deletions? Do they need to hear about the revision in wording from rhetoric, 07? Or can we make it more streamlined and have less information shared at Senate, going on the fact that we are assuming that the information we're doing in the curriculum committee is being shared. So those of you that are in the meeting listening to curriculum are going back and sharing that information based off of the curriculum committee meeting. Does the exact same thing need to be done at Senate, or are we sharing enough just with curriculum? So I think all of us need to determine what needs to be shared at the Senate. Do we continue as is? Do we cut things back? And then, Michael, I'd also like to hear your input. And I'm going to bring this up in the Senate for discussion at the next meeting. What do you people need to hear from us? What is the most important thing? And I don't want to omit anything that people need to hear. But I want to make sure what I'm sharing is pertinent and people aren't just tuning me out because they already heard it at curriculum.
Well, I don't know that there's that much overlap between curriculum and Senate. I mean, there's some. I'm at both. But I don't know that there's that much overlap. And of course, not everyone is represented on curriculum committee, as they shouldn't be. The committees of this type don't need someone from every department. But, Julianne and I did through email talk a little about this. I think my feeling is you don't need every detail. You need the most pertinent details. Now, as I said in our email exchange, obviously, if you're going to ask for a vote, you have to tell people what they're voting on. But they don't need to know all the discussions we've had, or sometimes they don't need to know them until they get until they get finished. So, any department that needed to know of my 3 courses are being deleted has been informed. The vast majority of the campus, I can assure you, do not care that those 3 courses are gone. And so
Right.
my department knows about it. They care, but I told them. So they're good. So I would say, a lot of people don't remember how long the curriculum committee meetings were before. The curriculum meetings.
Well, this is a long one today. I think people are ready to shut me off.
Well, I'll be quick. The Senate meetings used to go for hours. Now
Hours.
And now if it goes 95 minutes, people are giving me looks like, what, come on. And one of the first things I did when I took over Senate was ask people who hadn't been to Senate for years to stop, to give their seat to someone else, and ask the chairs to give streamlined bulleted reports. And believe me, Julianne, compared to what and Tracy will tell you this, compared to what the curriculum committee sometimes went on over an hour by itself at Senate. And so you're not doing anything bad, but I'm a strong believer in streamline. I'm a strong believer that if people have questions, they should ask. So I would be really okay with you going shorter. Don't go so short that no one knows what's going on in curriculum or doesn't know what they're voting for. But I would be really, really okay with it. But you're the chair,
Yeah, that's what I put the PowerPoint over my head typically when I'm speaking, is because I don't want to name every course. So I say we had 3 deletions, 1 revision, 5 curriculum changes. They're on the board. This is what we're voting on. That and I could talk really quickly, although this meeting is going to go 2 hours. I typically go pretty quickly. But I don't want to bore people. Go ahead, Sue, please.
Yeah, so this topic came up because there was conversation up at this level that I don't remember doing this, and maybe it was in my predecessor, the log that Susie creates, which, every course, why did they come to curriculum, what was the action, and, all of that. That was at one time provided to all the senators. And I don't remember doing that when I was the chairperson, but the question is how much information was out there. Certainly, curriculum is a subcommittee of the Senate, and they have to approve the work that's done. I don't know anybody that's gonna listen. The logistics of that room when we meet face to face is you can't hear everything the person is saying anyways. I'm sure counselors are taking whatever they hear at the curriculum meeting and sharing that with the rest of their counselors. And yes, Michael, when there are changes to a department, it is sent via an email that we're making this change and it's going to impact your course or your programs or whatever. So that communication is done. So is providing information about these are the courses, how many came forward, how many are deleted, what's a new program. That brief information I think is pertinent. I don't think going more detailed than that, this is my opinion, is necessary. I don't think people are listening it and they can't take it in anyways. So I think minimizing that information is fine. And I just want to make sure that everybody's on board with what's being presented and feeling like we're not presenting enough.
Well, do we have to vote at the Senate on the items that we voted on curriculum? Like if I say, okay, we had 3 deletions, before they're completely deleted, does Senate have to vote on that?
Yeah, the Senate has to vote on anything that's going to go to the board. So that's so I forgot about that. So you might have to do those deletions if that's how that works. And I admit, even though I was a very temporary chair of this committee between Sue Campos and before Sue Campos and after her predecessor, I believe me when I say I let Susie pretty much do everything because I did it saying this is temporary. I'm not going to do this. I'm not chairing this committee and Senate. So I'm not sure about that, but anything that has, if you're going to say it was approved by the Senate and the Senate's supposed to approve curriculum, it has to be in your report. It's how much detail you need. I mean, people could ask questions if they don't, they're not going to have, like for these deletions, they're not going to have a lot of questions. I'll be shocked if anybody's thinking, oh my God, you're getting rid of a course that hasn't been offered in 6 years.
Well, maybe like a list of what we deleted, but not the lengthy details that Susie wrote in the report.
Exactly. And if people have questions, then we're ready. Then we have to be ready to answer those because they have a right to ask questions. But yeah, I think that's exactly right, Julianne. You just, as long as you're telling people what's going on, if they want more details, they should ask for it. Okay. And they won't.
So what's reported to the board is things that are going to have a financial impact. So certainly if we're ever changing a course fee, increasing or decreasing, that has to be voted in by the board. The board wants to know about new programs. I'm going to be honest with you, the trustees really don't know or care about individual courses being deleted or added or revised. They want to know the impactful things to the college. So I'm about streamlining that process as well, because I think we're wasting a lot of time for Susie to create this log to go for the board, and then we have to sift through it in the AASA meeting. So I'm about streamlining the process as well for this area too, Michael.
I'm for the board. I'm for giving the board exactly what they want and nothing that they don't want. So that's fine with me. And you could almost do that with the Senate. I mean, I don't want your report to be so small that it sounds like we're not doing anything. But I think that sometimes when you just show those numbers, Julianne, and that's and give an overview of what curriculum's doing, and yeah, if there's a new program, obviously, that's anything that's going to go to the board, definitely you want to get a vote on. But yeah, I think you can. If you want, I mean, you're the chair, but if you want to go back, I would be supportive of that.
Yeah, we'll talk about it at the Senate just to make sure that I'm not missing anything. But Sue, you see my PowerPoints. What if I, and not necessarily share the PowerPoint, but just a list of it all on a.
I think it's fine if you listed Michael's courses these are the courses that were deleted at this month. I don't know that people are looking at the details.
No,
If it's been impacted already on them, they've already heard it before it got to this point in time.
Yeah. Okay. Kevin, did you want to say something?
Well, I just want to add to your questions, whether the faculty getting enough curriculum information. Keep in mind too, when I receive important update from you, the deans often send it immediately to the chairs and coordinators.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
you got as well, right?
Okay, thank you.
All the coordinators and chairs get the curriculum packet, do they not, Susie, even if they're not on the curriculum committee?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, and I know from this role, nobody's reading anything, but there is an opportunity for them to see it if they wanted to read it, so.
I think I could make something in one page really based off of either the first page of the agenda or just my PowerPoints saying, we did 3 deletions, here they are, but not even telling them what's included in that. And then
Right.
again, if they have questions, we could go on from there.
Right,
Okay.
perfect.
All right, I'll just
Thank
mention that at the Senate, and and we'll just go with what we have, I suppose, for this month. But then we'll see if we can make changes like for the spring. And I'll just bring that up, make sure nobody has any opposition to removing that lengthy document Susie submits and just going with the shorter items. Okay?
Sounds
All
good.
right, everybody's burnt out. I am going to propose that the meeting be adjourned at 4:28. Can I have a motion to approve?
So
Approve.
moved.
So, second, third.
Second? Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I will see you soon. Okay,
Thank
Bye.
you for sticking with us all. Bye-bye.
thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Julianne.